How are we doing today?
Was that directed at me?
No, what's not? It nothing to do with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm doing fine, just in case you're wondering.
Well, how you doing? Good or what?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
All right. Forgot to ask when I rolled in the door. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Ryan snuck the speakerphone on, or the speaker on. So Christina's here, we're just waiting for this. So we'll give it a few more minutes, hopefully she gets here. You know, close if you can see one if the lid comes on.
I have a window. She's here.
Sorry, was that to me? It was a little distorted.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, but the volume is a little wonky.
It's kind of buzzy.
Right, they're checking on that now.
That sounds a little better.
Okay, well, we'll attempt. I think we have the commissioners are going to be here now. Ryan, I guess we do roll call
Right. Commissioner Lyons,
here.
Commissioner Nemec,
Here.
Commissioner Kinzer is absent, Commissioner Rock,
Here.
Commissioner Moss,
Here.
Commissioner Milfief is absent. And we have vacancy.
Okay, we have a quorum. First thing to remind everybody, well, first, Brian, all the notices were done correctly.
Yep.
Paper as needed. Remind the commissioners if you've had any ex parte communications or if there's any conflicts of interest with any of the applications, let us know at the time of that application. So we'll move forward. First, if everybody had a chance to look over and approve look over the minutes for the January 10th meeting, is there any concerns or changes or corrections on any of those?
All looked good to me.
Okay, yeah, I didn't really see anything. Do you want to make a
I
motion?
make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 10th as written.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that has been approved. All right, we'll move to our preliminary development plan reviews. The first pre-app we have is a conditional use permit for a short-term occupancy of more than 10 for 507 First Street, James Bodie. I believe I see you there, James. I think you're muted.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay, yep, we can hear you. Okay, now, there you are. Are you gonna do the presentation there, James, or you have somebody else?
I was going to do the verbal presentation. I didn't bring any slides or anything.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I wasn't sure if that was new. Yep, that's perfect. Did you want me to give a quick overview first? I apologize. I don't know how
Yes.
this normally works.
Yeah, you could give kind of your presentation of what you're looking to get approved. Or
Sure.
Not so much approved tonight,
So-
but just the pre-plan.
Yep, absolutely. Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. This is a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath. As you can see, it's right off of downtown. It's a corner lot. We've operated this as a short-term rental for the past 3 years since we've owned it. We purchased it from Jared Hendy, like I said, 3 years ago. We're applying for an occupancy of 12. It's a 5-bedroom. Under the old rules, it was a 14-bedroom. We've never operated it as a 14-bedroom. We always capped it at 12 because we never wanted that many people in the home. Yeah, it's a 5-bedroom. So it's got 3 bedrooms downstairs, and then it's got a finished attic space with a loft and 2 additional bedrooms upstairs. Parking wise, it's got parking for 5. So, that's what the use, I guess, would be with 5 bedrooms. It's got a 2-car or 2 parking spot front yard, a 1-car garage, and then it's got room for 2 cars in the back. So it has a back driveway as well. Other than that, from a rules perspective, we've always had quiet hours of 10 to 8 a.m. We do have a back fire pit, which we clearly state at the property as well as in the pre-booking instructions, the quiet hours, along with, the obvious rules to make sure that the fire's out before someone goes to bed. We have on Evolve, which is the booking site, or I guess the third-party management system that we use. We have 4.81 stars, Airbnb 4.74, VRBO 4.9. We operate this as, I wouldn't call it a luxury vacation rental, but it's a well-appointed vacation rental. It's a semi-remodeled property. We keep it full with spices, toilet paper, paper towels, oil, all the things that we feel like someone would need when they come up to the mountains. So it's a nicely done vacation rental. We did hold a neighborhood meeting. We didn't have anyone in attendance. The only thing we got was one email from one of the, I guess you would call it neighbors around the corner that did comment on how well how nicely we keep our property, and just ask about the fire issue that I just mentioned, making sure that people put out the fire, because obviously they live at their property and they want to make sure it stays safe. We've had 0 police calls in 3 years that I know of. We've had 1 neighbor complaint. Our neighbors to, I guess that would be the east of us, David and Kay Burns, we know them very well. They have our number. They always keep us apprised of if there's any issues. But the only issue that we've ever had is someone with a dog off the leash that had come up to our neighbors. So we make a point. We technically accept 1 dog. At times, unfortunately, like with any vacation rental, someone comes in without notifying us that they have an animal. This was this instance. But we obviously, when that issue arose, we contacted the tenants right away, made sure that they realized that dogs needed to be kept on a leash, all that kind of stuff. But other than that, we've never had an issue at the property. We feel like we operate a very good vacation rental that adds occupancy to the greater McCall area. That's probably all the comments that I have. If y'all have any questions on it.
All right. Again, since we're going to all these applications at this level, is there any staff report on this? It's just, there's nothing staff at this point.
No, I mean, it's really good for you and the applicant.
Yeah.
Go through.
It's coming across very muffled. I don't think that's on my end.
One question you mentioned about is a third party company you're doing the bookings. Who is your local contact for if there's any emergencies? You have somebody here local or you?
Yeah, I am really the local comment. I live in Eagle, but I sell real estate, so I'm up there quite a bit. We do have a local house cleaner that doesn't act as a property management company for us, but they really, I would say they go above and beyond from they're almost a property manager. I mean, if we need anything outside of cleanings, they go by, handle it. I also have a local handyman that handles anything for me. But in the event that one of those 2 people can't handle a situation, I am up there a lot. So I oversee the property locally.
And is there anything within the ordinance that requires a local contact?
Yes, that is a requirement for a local or a person who is available within 1 hour, I believe.
Did you hear that? All right, James, that it is required that we have somebody within that can respond within 1 hour if there's an issue?
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, I guess the question would be like, is that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? I mean, I've operated this for 3 years without someone local beyond me. if that was, I guess, a requirement on the conditional use permit, then I would probably try to work out an arrangement with my house cleaner, but I've never had a need for that.
And now that we're going with the conditional use permit, might be in discussions with city staff to make sure we have what's required for that covered. Because there's a little new process here. One other question I had on your fire pit, you make sure you
Mhm.
instruct them later in the fall when it's not safe to have a fire pit going?
Yes, if there's ever any sort of fire warning, you know, yellow, red, anything like that, we are sure to include that in the rental instructions. So if it was a red burn status when you're not allowed, we would not allow the fire pit to be used. And I should also say too that we've made sure to keep any sort of brush far away from that. It's essentially raw dirt around the fire pit.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Not at this time.
I don't have any.
Okay, yeah, I would just say, I mean, it sounds like you got most everything there, but just kind of consult with staff to make sure they have the required numbers and stuff needed for a local contact. And then I don't know if they need to check with fire department or anything to make sure the fire pit's in a good, safe area. I mean, it sounds like it's been there a long time, but
Err on the side of getting more approval than less.
yeah, so I don't know if you may want to just, I don't know if they do through staff or just through the fire department to
Yeah.
verify.
Work with them and the fire department.
Yeah, just kind of make sure the fire pit's in a good, safer location.
Yeah, and I know by the end of the rule or end of the year, excuse me, per the new rules, I will have to have a fire inspection. I assume that that'll be something that's covered off of that inspection too, beyond smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors, which we also have.
I don't recall.
Good question.
It's on there.
It's on there.
It is on there? Okay, so yeah, sounds like it's on there. 'Cause a lot of it's new that we're working with, so good. It's on there, so they will take a look at that.
100%. And obviously, you know, we want to keep the neighborhood, our own personal home safe. So, you know, we will be sure when we meet for the fire inspection, even if it wasn't included, we would be asking questions around what their thoughts are on safety and any additional precautions we need to take.
Okay, sounds good. I think that's all the questions we have, unless there's anything else you have for us. Yes.
No, just, I guess, is there anyone in attendance that can provide further clarification on the local contact? You know, again, I'm up there quite often. I'm 2 hours away, so I want to just make sure. I mean, is the rule, because I'm not sure it's clearly stated. I mean, does the local contact need to be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or is my
I pulled up the
distance and use okay?
full definition. The definition for local contact person is the person designated by the owner or the owner's local contact person or representative who shall be available 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, while the short-term rental is rented for the purpose of A, responding within 60 minutes to complaints regarding the condition, operation, or conduct of occupants of the short-term rental, and B, taking remedial action to resolve any such complaints.
That's like 24 hours a day.
So, yeah, you have to have somebody basically available 24 hours a day that can respond within an hour of a call. I don't know if you set up your handyman or your cleaner, but you're gonna need somebody that's available for that.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
all right, okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll move on to our second pre-app, which is another conditional use permit for short-term rental at 2014 University Drive. Justin Manning, are you with us?
Not seeing him on there. There's one phone number on the list.
You guys need a *6 thing.
Oh, if you're on the phone and you might be muted, you need to do *6 to unmute yourself. May take a couple seconds, but is there anybody online or on the phone that's here regarding the 2014 University Lane, the short-term rental. Well, at this point, I think we'll move forward to the consent agenda. If that other person does show up, we'll come back to them. Let's see, we have, is there anything on the consent agenda? Let's see, it looks like just one item. Anybody have any questions regarding the item on the consent agenda?
Nope.
Yeah, it seemed pretty basic, very small parcels.
Mhm.
In that case, I'm open for a motion.
I make a motion that we accept, I guess, ROS 22-20.
We approve the consent agenda.
Approve the consent agenda, excuse me.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Consent agenda is approved. Okay, and we'll move on to the old business. The first item is PUD 2204, CUP 2204, Design Review 2206, and Scenic Route 2204 with to be determined Elo Road hatch design with Store It. I believe we had this in our last meeting and there was direction to staff regarding a denial.
Yes. The recommendation at the end of your guys' last meeting was to continue it to this meeting and direct staff to prepare findings consistent with recommending denial to the Valley County Commissioners. Those findings are in the packet and reading your approval.
All right, commissioners, you had a chance to look that over. Any questions or comments? More discussion on that?
Let me ask Christina if she was in this meeting. I can't remember.
Ask me what? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear.
Were you here last month?
You were here last meeting?
I was here at the last meeting, yes.
Okay, perfect. Never mind.
With this one, there is no real
So,
conditions. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just wanting to clarify, so we're recommending denial to the county, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to look, Brian, and some of those other, Brian/Meredith, I don't know who put it in there, but in some of those other packets, you guys had those nicely typed up possible motions to make. I don't see it in this one though.
Yeah, I think Brian's got it up on the screen. So I think it's we deny the design review and scenic route and recommend denial of the PUD and conditional use permit.
Okay. Do we need to do anything else? We're good?
We need to have a motion for that and a vote.
Yep, okay. Am I doing it? Liz, I thought you did it so well. You've been there.
I moved to deny design review 21-33 and scenic route review. Which one is it? Scenic route review 2204, and as well as move to recommend denial of PUD 2204 and CUP 2204.
All right.
Okay. Second?
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we do it?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say that. We better do a roll call on this one.
Commissioner Lance,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock,
Aye.
Commissioner Nemec.
Yes.
Right,
And Rachel mentioned that we think we got the design review number wrong, so can we do that one separately over again, please?
Okay, so I heard this said, just that we need to redo it for the design review to make sure we have the correct design review, and it's design review 22-06.
All right, so I move to deny design review 2206.
I second.
Second?
I have motion and second for denial. All in favor? Oh, let's do a roll call. Sorry.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemec.
Yes.
All right, so unanimous. We approve the denial.
Beautiful, well done.
All right. Well, now we'll
Thank you.
move. Okay, now we'll move to conditional use permit 2103, design review 2133, 111 North Sampson Trail, Design West Architects, Paragon Consulting for the McCall Donnelly School District. I'm not sure who we have here for that application.
Typically here, and Joe Barton is on the internet.
Believe BH is probably Bill Ham.
Good guess, better guess.
Yes, I'm present for this hearing.
All right, whoever would like to do their presentation?
I think we are going to initially ask Joe Barton from Paragon Engineering to discuss the traffic situation and what we've learned from the city-provided traffic study. So with that, I would ask Mr. Barton to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I can take a quick stab at that. I looked through the draft traffic study that was prepared by HDR for the city. A couple of things I guess I would kind of like to go over in that one of the goals it appears with that traffic study is to help alleviate traffic on 3rd Street or the highway with some of the connections at Spring Mountain and Floyd Street with some of the connections that were described in that traffic study. And it appears based on the way the traffic study was prepared and the analysis that making those connections at Floyd up to Davis, I think Floyd was connected through to Woodlands Drive and Spring Mountain, that did accomplish alleviating some of the traffic on 3rd Street by dispersing that traffic, the north-south traffic to some alternate routes. The one thing I would point out with the Dinehard lane extension piece of the study, when the alternate includes the Dinehard extension, that portion of the benefit of connecting Floyd Street through and some of those other connections is the benefit is still there, but it's reduced when Dinehard is extended to the east, because it provides a more direct and concentrated route to 3rd and Dinehard for that development area to the east of the school property. So essentially, traffic that would be traveling north via the alternate routes, some of that traffic is then using Dinehard to get over to 3rd Street, which puts them back on 3rd Street rather than using the alternate north-south route. The other thing that I noticed in that traffic study is that I think they studied, let's see here, 2, 4, 8 intersections. And without the Dinehard lane extension, 2, 4, 5 of those intersections performed better than if the Dinehard Lane extension were included in the analysis. Two of those intersections performed slightly worse, but within the same level of service. And then one was very close to unchanged. So it appears based on that information that although concentrating the traffic from a development east of the school district may provide some benefit to the local streets, it does not necessarily contribute to the overall goal of taking some of that north-south traffic off of 3rd Street. So that's kind of what I drew out of a quick review of the report. But there, I'd try to answer questions related to that if there are any.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Joel regarding the traffic study at this point? And we can always come back to it when we have more of a discussion, but just in case you have anything right now.
I don't.
I anticipate having questions. I definitely have questions, but maybe at the next, maybe we circle back. Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, we'll probably have more for you, obviously, a little bit later, but if you just want to continue with your presentation.
Very good.
Thank you.
Bill, you're up again.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the biggest issue was the traffic issue, and the question for us is whether what we're proposing as a project changes the level of service at the intersection beyond what we're already proposing. And I guess we can look to our experts to see if this is the case or not, but initially it does not appear that we are raising that level beyond the service level. And so we would still remain in our previous position that if we control the number of occupants, the occupancy of the facility, that we are still not forcing the additional infrastructure at the Dinehard-Sampson Trail intersection. That what we're proposing to deal with on site still help mitigate some of the situation there. And so as far as any other of the conditions that were being discussed last time, we would just leave it to your judgment, and we'd ask for you to recommend approval of this project with whatever conditions you want to apply to things such as landscaping, adding trees, those types of things, bike facility, long-term parking. But the major issue obviously was the traffic, and we're not necessarily seeing anything here that would, from the city traffic study that would cause us to change our course and our request for recommendation of approval.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to do in the presentation before we hear from staff?
I'm sorry, I was unable to understand that.
Is there any other items that you'd like to include on your presentation before we have the staff report?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Staff, right?
All right, I think, so during the November 1st meeting of last year, you guys heard the initial public hearing on this item and decided to continue it. Gather more information on the city's southeast McCall traffic study, more regional look at things, information regarding bicycle parking, pathway with requirements and scenic route landscaping. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Emily Andrews, and I don't know if Aaron Baker is on with Forex, but Emily is on and is going to provide the overview of the traffic or the regional transportation study.
All right.
Hello, yes, it's just me. I'm Emily. I'm with Horrocks, like Brian said. I think that Mr. Barton gave a really good description of kind of the basics of what the study did. I'd like to just talk just really briefly about how we got to those conclusions, and then just reemphasize some of the takeaways. So this study was a study of the southeast side of McCall, including this area. And we built a traffic model based on our existing and our future land zoning, and worked with staff to make sure that that made sense with what McCall is expecting in this area for growth. And then we applied trips and kind of vehicle traffic to this area based on those recommendations. Is this, Brian, are you the one sharing this? This is, yeah, so this is a report. We split it into these areas and assigned trips to each of these areas. And then kind of monitored the road volumes and then the intersection operations as well. And Mr. Barton went over kind of the data that came out of that. The Floyd Street and the Sampson Trail connections are really valuable in taking traffic off of North 3rd Street. And when you add the Dinehard extension, it puts more traffic back onto Dinehard and onto North 3rd Street. Really the benefit, I know that that's what you're interested in for this specific agenda item, but really the benefit of the Dinehard extension is providing one collector road that can take the traffic from the east side of the school and bring it to another collector road or to more collector roads and provide connections to the rest of McCall. And the alternative is that there are more local connections like at Stockton and at Sheila and at Fox Ridge Road. And so the two options really that we looked at were if most of the traffic were to take Fox Ridge Road and Stockton and Sheila, or if instead there was a Dinehard extension and traffic was able to use Dinehard extension. And this study was interesting because there wasn't a really crystal clear cut answer. It kind of depends on the priorities of the city and what you would like to see in this area. If North 3rd Street is less of a concern, or if you're more if you're looking to ITD maybe to solve those problems, then maybe keeping traffic on North 3rd Street is not a bad way to keep traffic off of some of your other local collectors and roadways. But if you are looking to keep development traffic off of some of the local roads, then that Dinehard extension, that's where it becomes valuable. I think it's worth noting also that the specific impacts, this study was a very high level planning kind of study. And these numbers are subject to change depending on how your zoning goes over the next, 10, 20, 30 years. And specific impacts to some of these intersections like Dinehard and Sampson Trail and Woodlands Drive and Sampson Trail and those more local intersections, specific impacts are going to be better analyzed in more micro studies like traffic impact studies. That's where you'll be able to understand exactly what mitigations will be needed for those impacts. With that, I don't really have much more to add to what Mr. Barton said, but if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you.
Rob, it's super buzzy. We can't understand anything.
Could you understand, Emily?
We could understand Emily just fine, yes.
Understand us.
what would be buzzing?
It's like the speakers buzzing.
I'm at least 9.
No, I'm trying to be as quiet as I can.
Well, I guess try to yell or speak a little louder and hopefully it gets a little clearer.
Back to you.
Okay, Emily, I don't think at this point we have any other further questions. We probably will here in a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be here if you have anything.
Staff, is there any additional?
Yes, I'll point out we have Morgan and Nathan Stewart from Home Works on for questions on the traffic study, as well as Emily. I'll go through the other items requested. The bicycle parking and pathway standards kind of fall in the same conversation. Ultimately, this is a site that has known traffic and queuing issues regarding pickup and drop off. The people that are choosing to ride a bike instead of be in the traffic are actively working to solve that problem. My opinion, that we should uphold code for one and reward those people with not having to buy a bike every 2 years because it rusts out in the weather. So I think those are worth holding up. Scenic route landscaping, again, the code requirement is that they design their parking at the middle school to include parking lot landscaping, as it is a parking area over 50,000 square feet. So like maybe beyond a little unproportional to require that at this point, but I think requiring them to landscape the site to scenic route standards is a reasonable compromise. And for any questions on any of that?
I don't know. I think to me that some of the biggest point is the 75-foot right away,
Right. Yeah, so the 70-foot right of way.
or 70-foot, right?
Yeah.
70 foot.
So as was discussed, it's as far as that solving all the problems in the world based on the outcome of this traffic study, it's a little unclear. I think it's more of, like Emily was saying, a policy decision of, do we want vehicles to go where we can design for it appropriately, have adequate pedestrian facilities, don't have vehicles parking or backing out onto busy roads, things like that. Or not, or do we want to use the existing system that we have?
Remember to speak clearly, Brian.
And the school, to this point, there's been no agreement between staff and the school as far as the 70-foot.
There has been no new progress on that. One point of clarification that I will bring up based on the school district's presentation, their traffic impact study does state that with no modifications, the intersection will reach a failing level of service when the school reaches the proposed capacity. Their suggestion is to improve the intersection. Our suggestion is to extend that yard.
Hey, Brian, this is Nathan Stewart. If you'd like me to speak, I'm happy
Yes.
to.
Please do.
Okay. Commissioners, Nathan Stewart, Public Works Director, City Engineer. I'm the one that commissioned this study by Horrocks. And it really was a genuine attempt to become more educated at the staff level on what's going on in the southeast corner of McCall. The city has been faced with a number of potential development pressures. We meet with the state quite a bit to talk about the future development of the State 80. And we obviously have this active land use application. When we first met with the school district, probably over a year ago, this question was posed, why don't we create an extension to Dinehard? And knowing full well some of the existing conditions that were occurring on the campus for only select hours during the day, during drop off and pickup, but also special events. And looking at the historical discussion that the community had with an expectation that this road extend to the east for future development, because we know there's developable land there and McCall's growing. So in an effort to get us more up to speed, we had this study commissioned. The request from the staff on this specific issue is to provide an additional 35 feet from what they're already obligated to do. And that would provide a full 70-foot wide right-of-way, of which a collector road that would have a center turn lane probably and a separated pathway could be constructed. Now, no one has taken the next step to evaluate whether that physically can happen and whether or not, if it physically can happen, if it actually will mitigate some of the existing congestion issues that's happening on the campus. But that's the opportunity. The opportunity is to evaluate that. Without requesting the easement and getting the easement, the city is not in the position to require future developers or the school, if they were to significantly expand, buy land to the east, or even work with future developers of land to the north and south of the Sampson Trail Dinehard intersection on how they would develop that intersection. So in our negotiations with the school district, we said, how about this? Why don't you give us this easement today so that we can buy everybody time to then get into the details of actually getting, a topographic survey conducted and really analyzing whether or not this collector road can solve the community's problems, including the school district. So what I feel the report has provided is it's basically stated some of the obvious answers, that if you had a collector roadway that was properly built, and granted, this is probably, well, it's most definitely a 25-mile-an-hour road. It might be signed to be 15 miles an hour during drop off and pickup, might be 10 miles an hour. I don't know what the safe speed would be for those time periods, but it clearly shows that future development on the east side of the school campus would be focused on utilizing Dinehard Lane. And the question is that a good thing? And if you just look at the data, you might believe that that's not a good thing. But if you think about why you create collector roads versus rural residential subdivision internally networked roads, it's because you want that traffic on those roads because they're designed that way. Neither Fox Ridge Lane nor Stockton nor Sheila have a separated pathway. So people walking and biking on those roads are going to be at risk. And do we fully understand the line of sight issues at 90-degree bends on those roads and where driveways are located and all those other things? So what this does is it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, there's potential here to create a road, and it will focus traffic on that road and will require that intersection be improved to what we assume is a signalized intersection at a minimum. A roundabout might work as well. And if you do that, that intersection would function pretty well. To the applicant's engineering comments that there are trickle-down effects, that maybe it doesn't improve the traffic conditions on 3rd Street as much. That's simply looking at the numbers. And I think that's analyzing the study beyond what its intended use is, because folks that get to that intersection may choose to turn north onto Sampson Trail instead of continue on Dinehard, unless they're going to the grocery store or they're going to the post office. So they would stay on Dinehard. So my take from the city engineering position is that this study does reinforce what staff assumed, was that if development east of the school campus were to happen, which is envisioned and expected in our comprehensive plan, that if Dinehard Lane doesn't extend, then you will have increased traffic on these secondary roads. And that if you had Dinehard Lane extend, that traffic on those roads would be less. Does it answer the question, is it going to improve conditions on the school campus? From a traffic standpoint, it doesn't. But what it does tell to me is that we now have a document that somewhat reinforces what we assumed. And our position is let's require the easement for now. And as we leverage the investment of future development to evaluate how that road could be built, will it help mitigate the school's issues? We will then figure out whether or not it actually makes sense to physically construct that road. If we don't require the easement today, then we've lost that opportunity as a community. And we've lost that opportunity to be creative, not only with the stakeholders of the school district, but also the adjoining property owners and then community that's also trying to bring development to our town and will be faced with challenges of how do they mitigate that problem. Now that's a lot what I just shared with you, so happy to answer any questions and certainly interested to hear from the school district when they have a chance.
The city is not interested in expanding new city roads to have to maintain. I would assume that this, if it was built, would be a city road. At what point would it stop? I mean, if you went back to the property just past the elementary school where it would most likely turn into the development property in the back, would you foresee something that would switch to from public to private roads, or?
Yeah, good question. So, and you hit on a really good win, I think, for the applicant. Part of the city's approach on this was that, the school district currently has driveway assets, roadways, pathways that they have to maintain. And so by conceding this easement, it would open up the opportunity that it could become a public right of way, and that it would relieve the school district from the liability and the expense of maintaining that roadway in front of their property. Typically, the city is designed to encourage public roadway development. Our codes state that, roads should be publicly maintained. Now, private roadways are beneficial to the taxpayer because HOAs pay for them. But HOAs politically are not always aligned with that mentality, and we're often presented with the inconsistencies of somebody lives in a subdivision where their HOA doesn't take care of the roads, and everybody else lives on public streets, and those people want the city to take over those roads. So when we look at a development that's of significant size or that provides major collection, I do expect that the city's position would be to make that a publicly maintained road so that the resources of the Public Works Department can be out there clearing snow in a efficient manner along with the rest of the major collectors so that emergency services can get there. We have not seen a formal application from the developer to the east, so we can't specify which roads would be public and which roads would be private. Dead-end roads typically are not favorable for the city because they're difficult to maintain. Roads that don't have adequate right-of-way widths, obviously the city wouldn't accept those. So the city does entertain and would entertain public roadways, specifically collector roadways. It's more those small cul-de-sac roads and things that really are atypical and really don't provide a benefit to the overall community that we would want to reserve those to be private roads.
All right. Any other questions for Nathan?
I semi have one is sort of half formulated in my head. It, sorry, half formulated. With the 70-foot right of way, that would put the road, well, that would put the right of way, let's say, the right of way within 50 feet or so of the new building, if I'm seeing these dimensions correctly. Does the city feel confident that the roadway could, I mean, again, confident. Understanding that topo hasn't been, understanding that there's a lot of things that would need to be looked at, but the city must have somewhat of a comfort level that this wouldn't be a safety issue for the schools. Wouldn't be introducing a significant safety issue for the schools due to a proximity to a large collector road. I guess that's.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's on everybody's mind, right? Is that a bad thing? And I can't provide the absolute answer to that because we haven't done what's called, a specific safety study of do 25-mile-an-hour roads that are flagged or signed 10 miles an hour during the morning and the afternoon, are they dangerous if they're within 50 feet of a school building? I don't have the answer to that, but we have talked about it with all of our engineering professionals, and the unanimous position is that these conditions exist in most locations. Most often, schools are located on collector roadways because lots of people like to come to schools. And that's what we're seeing happening. So I don't want to take that position. I think there will be, in the future, that analysis will be vetted and the school would be the large stakeholder at that meeting or at that juncture where we have to make those decisions. We just simply haven't been able to get to that point because no one is willing to do that level of engineering analysis. And I don't think the city has taken the position that the school district has to design that road because the school district isn't asking to do that. And I think what we're really just simply trying to do here is provide the opportunity for the community to utilize this option in an effort to mitigate other problems that would result if we didn't have this connection. And even more importantly, really hoping that there could be a silver bullet here in that we can acknowledge the presence of a collector roadway close to school buildings, with the benefit that the separated pathway would get people safely to those buildings, provide a buffer from the buildings to the roadway, and then also avail, some financial relief from the school district because they're not maintaining these facilities. They're not necessarily responsible for plowing them and paving them and those types of things. So I wish I could answer that question more thoroughly, but we just haven't done that study yet.
Thank you.
And just looking for questions from Nathan at this point.
Nathan, you mentioned that some of these roads, the HOAs don't cover snow removal and maintenance on the roads, but some do. It falls back into the city's lap if that happens, or what?
It doesn't. We just deal with the complaints.
Okay. Well, I guess you answered my question. Okay.
Mostly what happens is these HOAs are dealing with failing roadways, and then they get an estimate to fix the roads and their jaws drop because they haven't been saving the money they need to. city and said, hey, will you take over maintaining this road for us? And the answer is absolutely no, we can't most of the times because the rights of way aren't wide enough. Secondly, out of respect to the taxpayer, we simply state, no, we could entertain a discussion if you actually did bring these roads up to city standards, repave them, and then once they were in perfectly new condition, then we could consider taking them over. But that's actually never been presented during my tenure here with the city, because no one's really actually been able to get that far down the process. So, but we do have situations where, and I just had the council, city council on a tour where, we took folks to proposed roadways that may only serve 3 or 4 properties. And so you ask yourself the question, does this make sense for the citizens to pay for maintaining a road that only serves 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 houses? Probably not. But a collector roadway, they might serve 100 to 300 homes, as well as taking care of getting people to the school campus. Probably does make sense to be a public roadway.
So,
Christie.
well, I was just kind of thinking through. So right now we're requesting one of the conditions was a 70-foot easement, not a right-of-way dedication, where we were just talking about public right-of-ways and city roads. Now, I guess I'm curious about that difference.
That's a good question too. And I'm not a land use attorney, but the easement would allow for that roadway to exist. It would be on school property, but the easement would allow for public access. There may be benefits for the school in the future if they wanted to dedicate that right of way to the public, but that really wasn't contemplated thus far. All we simply were doing was saying, hey, there's already a 35-foot easement requirement here. Underneath that requirement, there's already utilities there. There's public utilities, water and sewer mains, communications, power infrastructure. So the only thing that we saw was feasible to keep this option open to the community was to say, well, if we gained an extra 35 feet, now we have a standard 70-foot collector right of way. It may not even be enough room, that pathway may have to sit a couple feet on the school's property outside of that easement. We don't know. But at the end of the day, the 70-foot standard is what's in our code. And that's what we felt was like a fair position to be at this point in time.
Any additional staff input at this point before we go to a public hearing?
Morgan,
I think you covered most of it. Like you covered that the traffic impact study from the schools does show that the intersection will fail once the current enrollment capacity is exceeded. That's about all. I think we covered most of the.
Okay.
Most of this.
At this point, I think we'll go to the public hearing. And with that, I think we'll start with anybody that's online. And so if you're online or on the phone, you may need to hit *6, and I will go with the list we have here to begin with. Try to make sure we haven't anybody else that we've already talked with. Okay, Thaddeus Hoffman. Would you like to speak regarding this application? Again, you may need to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
appears to be online as on a computer. And muted.
You might be muted. It looks like you're muted there, Thaddeus. If you'd like to speak, you just need to unmute yourself. You're your daddy, what? Okay, well, we'll move. Oh, somebody there?
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can hear you. Just need your name and
Okay,
address.
excuse me. Thaddeus Hoffman, 602 Woodlands Drive. And I just wanted to, first off, you know, I thought I'm just going to make a comment, and I thought the assessment from the Horrocks engineer regarding the transportation study that was done as being, you know, a high level overview of, you know, much more than what we're talking about tonight with regards to the you know, the Dinehard Sampson Trail intersection. And I appreciate that. And I'm guessing that as these recommendations in that transportation study come forward, there will be separate discussions surrounding those. And then I wanted to also thank Nathan. I felt that was a very good summary of, you know, from a technical standpoint, understanding that, you know, we're dealing with a little bit of uncertainty here. However, we don't want to lock the community out of, you know, a potential solution that can solve transportation problems for, you know, the greater McCall that we're talking about. And those are my two comments, and I appreciate everybody's work on this.
Okay, thank you. And just want to also remind everybody, you have 3 minutes to comment. If somebody does talk about basically the same thing that you agree with, there's no need to repeat it, just to say you can agree with previous person. If you have anything new, that would be great. So, okay, moving on, we have Cherie Sonfeld.
Yes, hi, this is Sherry Sonfield. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sherry, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I live at Bob Bichot, and I live at 664 Woodlands Drive. And I've put in comments in the past, and I won't repeat those or anything Thad just said, but I just wanted to say that to me, the planning department has presented the vision and the long-term way to look at this. And it's so important not to forget long-term. I think in all honesty, the school district is thinking short-term. And our job, more your job than my job, but our job is to look long-term and see what needs to be done now. And if we don't do it now, all the terrible consequences on these local roads and all the expense for everyone to upgrade those and change those and all the mess on Woodlands and Sheila, et cetera. So anyway, Nathan really made a great presentation. He's made a lot of really good points that maybe that were in between some points that I had seen in the past, and I appreciate those very much. And I think we're all making that a very solid case that supports all of the planning department's recommendations. And I wholeheartedly support them. And I hope that you do also, and that we don't let this get away from us. So thank you all so very much for all your hard work.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone that would like to comment regarding this application? All right, we'll move to meeting hall here. See several people here, but I'm guessing they're with different applications. Well, I'll just ask anybody here that would like to speak regarding this application.
Craig Groves, 154 Shadows Trail, Donnelly, Idaho. I'm the landowner that owns the majority of the property to the north, south, and east of the school property. I look at this application, I look at the planning staff's vision, and I realize that as being the landowner, speaking in favor of this application is going to cost me a lot of money. But this is the right public policy decision. It's been the right public policy decision from day one. And I would encourage the commissioners to adopt the recommended conditions of approval for the conditional use permit.
right, thank you. Is there anyone else here in the meeting that would like to speak regarding this application? All right, last call for anybody online or on the phone that would like to speak, and you may need to hit *6 if you're on the phone. All right, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And commissioners, discussion.
I guess from my perspective, when I was first looking at this, my question was like, why is it the school's responsibility to provide this easement? But then looking through the history of everything that's gone down with this particular property, that's always been the plan, right? And that's always kind of been the expectation. So in reviewing, I fully support the staff recommended conditions.
Christine, your thoughts?
I muted her.
Oh, you're muted there, Christina.
I was muted because I've been intermittently coughing and sneezing and doing all the fun things that go along with
We
it.
have applicant rebuttal before we get into deliberating.
Oh, I'm sorry. We actually forgot about applicant rebuttal on this question. So, Bill, would you like to have any future or further comments regarding the staff or public comment?
Thank you. I'd like to just make a couple comments. I appreciate all the concerns that have been expressed, but I also want to make sure that we are looking at the needs of the school district. Seems like there's been a lot more questions here, again, than answers on the traffic information. When you had continued this, the idea was that in December, there was going to be some better information and we'd be able to move forward and give you information to make some decisions. We're in February, and although some of the discussions are compelling as far as waiting to the future to find out whether this road will work or not, that's all good. I understand that, but the school district has to have accommodations for students that are showing up. And they run bonds that have limited timeframes and whatnot. So the school district also has some needs that they're trying to meet and balancing it with all these other questions the school district has that aren't being answered. As far as that collector road, whether it will work for snow removal and then clearances to separated paths, which could further infringe on the district. And I want also to reiterate that there was a time when this was before the city, when the Fox Ridge development came in place. At the time, they said, this is not needed. And now, because that easement was not preserved to the south, this encumbers the school by now forcing them to have a 70-foot easement, which may or may not work. So really, the district is not trying to be short-sighted and looking to just today, but also how long does the district wait? They still have kids they got to accommodate. They want to provide a good learning environment. There's obviously impacts with a collector as far as noise, traffic at certain times of day, just instead of where we have it at the arrival and departure from school and special events. So with that, we're still going to request your recommendation for approval with whatever conditions you want to put on it. But as far as the easement and the collector goes, when will that question be answered as far as impacts on the school? Thank you.
Thanks. I mean, they probably should have an agreement with the Fox Ridge. My concern is having the school to have to do the full 70-foot. And should there be some sort of reimbursement for giving up that extra 35 feet, which is typically not normal when it's not going to be used within the school? I guess another question would be if if it was approved, even with that easement of 70 foot, obviously the school district wants to move forward and have that new entrance come in to alleviate as much as they can on the traffic flow. We don't know a time frame on if the collector would be designed and built and how much that would affect what the school district's already planning to put in. So it's kind of a tricky one. Clearly with the sewer district, timing, nobody knows what that would be entailed for as far as the development of their piece behind it. Clearly with that other piece not developing or until it develops, there's no need for the collector. So, I mean, it is a tricky one on timing and what happens with what the school puts in now compared to, is it 2, 3, 4 years down the line? We just don't know with the sewer district at this point. There's lots of questions that have to be answered before that development can go. So
I don't know, raising my hand on behalf of Bill Punkety, who is right.
Oh, Bill, yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just, and forgive me if I've missed it, but I wanted to make clear whether or not we've closed the public hearing on this matter.
Yes.
Yes, it has been closed.
Okay, thank you. I forgive me if I missed it. I just wanted to make sure.
Bill, why we do have you is, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a precedent, but I know in past when Boydston Deinhardt connector was done, there's some width required at the turn of West Valley off of Boydston. And that landowner, I mean, the city had to buy some of that property. This one's a little different because they're not, you know, there's no set plan at this point. So, I mean, is there, I just don't know if there's a way to talk more with the school district. I know they probably want to get everything moving forward, but to make sure that we're doing everything appropriately and not just taking too much and having an issue in the future with too much of almost a taking of the property. Even though we're just asking for an easement, it's still taking potential use and potentially limiting this expansion of future expansions, which they show on one of their plans. I just want to make sure if we do that, it's doing it correctly, or if there's something we could do to alleviate either some setbacks or assure the school that if that is done, that they're not going to have the cost of doing any of it, and it would flow with whatever turnaround or loop they're going to have to create or change at the elementary. I just have a lot of questions on that, so I don't know how or anybody else's thoughts on that.
One of my questions was, does the inclusion of this, I guess would be for this, the applicant, does the inclusion of an easement significantly change the design that's being submitted for the improvements with this package? Would that requirement require a change to the improvements that are being proposed with this submittal?
So I can try to answer that. The proposal staff provided the applicant in providing the easement alleviated the school from doing any necessary improvements, because then it provided an opportunity for a developer to construct the roadway and the pathway. The school may choose to do certain improvements because they're not willing to wait. The compromise in per se was that, okay, we have some unknown impacts to the intersection. The TIS that the school district had provided still had some holes in it. We had some comments back to them that they needed to revise some components of that so we could start to nail down what is their proportionate impact to that intersection, knowing that future development would also have impacts. And because those assessments are really difficult, the idea of, well, this is a big ask of the school district. And if we can get this easement on behalf of the community, we can alleviate the school from having those responsibilities with this limited conditional use permit application that they're asking for. Their additional traffic from the additional students that they would have the capacity to serve does tip that intersection into a non-compliant state, which puts some burden on them. But if they gave the easement, they would be relieved of having to do those improvements, and we could work with future developers to complete those improvements. To the question of payment for the easement, that's always an option. But I think from the staff's position, the financial benefit to the school was that they no longer had to maintain all of these facilities, and the pathway and the roadway that would encumber this easement is already there. It may be widened, it may be improved, and the pathway connectivity may be better, safer, more ADA compliant. There may be pedestrian beacons that get installed to get people back and forth across the road. But those would no longer be the burden of the school district. They would be the burden of either private developer or the city. So staff felt that was a financial gain for the school district. Now, the question about setbacks, I can't answer that. I don't think we studied that extensively. And certainly the final design of this roadway would help to dictate whether those setbacks needed to be, alleviated. Brian, do you have anything to add there?
I will add the setbacks are fairly short in civic center. I believe 0 foot on sides, maybe 5 foot from the road. But yeah, I remember reviewing it at some point, and I believe it will work. And then I will also just point out that conditional approval is prior to a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall dedicate a 70-foot right-of-way easement. It's simply putting a line in the sand on paper, formalizing that agreement. They're welcome to continue using their property as they see fit until we determine whether or not a roadway is necessary. And
If the school does an easement, they have to maintain they don't have to do anything as far as maintaining the property at all, right?
once it becomes a public right of way, then it would know.
It becomes a public right away, so no input from the school. Okay, I see.
And I would add that, this has been a tough position for everybody involved, because I don't think the school district got into this land use application thinking they needed to fully evaluate a roadway. But that opportunity was there. And so from the staff's position, and I respect what Bill Hamlin stated, which is like, these guys are on a timeline, but we have not been provided any information to say that this roadway won't work. And everybody involved has that opportunity to do so. I was able to allocate some of the city's money to do this study, to look globally at the area. But at any point in time, we can get into that level. That will help set the timeline for when this roadway would or wouldn't get built. So it's unfortunate that we do have these questions and that there has been this time frame that's gone on. But again, that's why we say, okay, let's get the easement now, and then that provides everybody time and the right investor to spend the effort to vet that out, knowing that the school district and the city are the major stakeholders to make the decisions on whether it will be successful.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions? I can kind of say that if the schools, allowed to move forward based on that easement, that they're not having to worry about any intersection improvements. They don't have to do maintenance. They would maintain their own, whatever driveway they put in for now, but obviously when it was changed, that would all have to be engineered to, I would say, work with their current exits, entrances, however that traffic flow, I'm sure that would have to be safely done for a variety of reasons. So Nathan, what other, I see I had, as far as the maintenance and then the intersection, was there other things that would benefit the school as of now?
No, I can't speak for the school. And I know they have looked at some ways in which they can reroute their traffic in the short term, given the existing conditions. And they may need to make some decisions on whether that's in their financial best interest if this is moving forward in this direction. If the easement's a non-starter, then it's a non-starter, and I don't think the school goes forward if the city requires the easement. So the commission needs to take a position here, I think, of whether they are going to require the easement, and then if they're not, then the result would be we'd have to work with this applicant based on their existing situation, assuming that they're going to fund all of these improvements, and then we'd have to come up with a way in which they can help mitigate the impacts that they're creating to the Sampson Trail intersection. And those are the conversations, the engineering review that started and then pretty much just stopped because the easement requirement was a really difficult one for the school district to come up. So that's where I think the line in the sand is right now.
Okay. I got the impression from Bill that it sounded like they would move forward on whatever we agreed to, but I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I don't know. I guess commissioners, any other thoughts?
I was just wanting to pull up, I'm looking right now for it in my folder, our CUP approval markers, I guess, that we normally kind of go through and check our boxes, dot our I's and cross our T's. Looks like Brian's grabbing it for us.
We have it in. And here somewhere.
Okay.
I have them up here on the screen. Yeah, if I can just read through one by one.
Yeah, it's probably just.
Yes. Okay, number one, constitute a conditional use authorized in the zone involved.
I'd say yes.
Be harmonious and in accord with the general objectives and with any specific objectives of the comprehensive plan and or this title.
Oh,
And I think it kind of fits with
loosely.
the overall view of the area.
Designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the likely or existing character of the neighborhood, and that such use will not change the essential character of the surrounding area.
Yeah, I mean, the expansion of the schools, what's there?
We're gonna hand it anyway, I think.
Not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of such proposed use.
Yeah, I don't see anything. If anything, they'll improve that drop off and pickup flow would be beneficial.
Not cause any substantially harmful environmental consequences to any land or waters within the planning jurisdiction.
That helps developers with that.
Yeah, I don't see that causing any issues.
Not create excessive additional public costs for public facilities and services, and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community.
Don't see any cost. I mean, the road would be, but that's not there. They're not doing that.
Be served adequately by essential public facilities and services, including highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water and sewer, and schools. The applicant may be required as a condition of approval to mitigate any deficient public service.
Yeah, that expansion is not changing that dramatically.
Not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, or conditions of operation that will cause unreasonable production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, odors, or other forms of pollution.
I don't know, those middle school kids.
Pretty close to the school.
Yeah, there's going to be a few more of them, but yeah, I don't think anything substantial to change that would affect that item.
Have vehicular approaches to the property so designed as not to create a detrimental interference with traffic on surrounding public or private thoroughfares or adversely affect the pedestrian environment.
This case, in lieu of them having to make any changes to the intersection, even though higher student population, but in lieu of that, we would be asking for the easement. Even if that road is not ever put in, it would still, that's what the city's offering in lieu, so it addresses that item.
Not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of an important natural, scenic, or historic feature.
Pretty clear no.
Be on a site of sufficient size to accommodate the proposed use, including the yards, open spaces, snow storage walls, fences, parking areas, loading zones, and design standards applicable. Have minimal negative economic impact on the neighborhood or surrounding community.
I say, yeah.
I mean, they're not building the road, so yeah, there's nothing really
Yeah.
affect it.
You did it.
So, been a while since we've been through that one without any issues.
Okay, so then one last question I was wondering about, where did our recommendations of approval go? Conditions of approval. Okay, so right now in there, we had where is the landscape number? Landscape plan, 10% parking.
Number 6, I think.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so you just, it's listed right now as an or, is that, am I reading that right, Brian? Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. That was the only other one I was wanting to look at.
We don't need to change anything since there's currently a 35-foot easement.
There is not currently a 35-foot easement. There is currently a condition of approval on their original
Oh, that's right.
Use permit that requires them to dedicate a 35-foot easement.
Okay, so this would obviously overset that. Since that other one isn't in there, does this need to, well, I guess you would, within the creation of the easement, have with all utilities and everything, with, once that actual easement document was drafted up.
Okay. So. Where were those handy dandy?
You're looking at motions
Those are so nice.
right before the conditions of approval.
I found them.
We're right on.
Or right on screen.
Page, isn't it?
16 to 17, right before the conditions. of approval. Probably back this way. Well, if there's not any other questions, concerns, I'm open for motion.
I move to recommend approval of CUP 2103 with the staff recommended conditions of approval.
Do we need to also include the design review on that or a separate?
We'll do those as separate motions.
Separate motion, okay.
Oh, sorry, I jumped to the second one.
Oh, you're good on that one, so.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve CUP 2103. We'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemick,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous. The motion is approved. Now we need to address design review 2133 for a motion.
I move to approve design review 2133 with the staff recommended conditions of approval.
Second that one.
I have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemick,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous. The motion is approved. Thank you, Bill, and everybody on that item. Now, back here. Move to subdivision 2206. Conditional use permit 2206, design review 2223, scenic route 2215, 209, 217 Simmons Street. We got Steve Callen here.
Steve Callen, 385 Rio Vista.
Architect. Richard Wilmot, Chrysalis Architecture, 3914 East Presidential, Meridian, Idaho. I brought a little. Brian brings this up. It's just a compilation of some of the images and some of the documentation that you probably have in your packets, but
Assuming not the mattress firm.
this is not. No.
Yeah, sneak.
Yes, energy structures there. What we're asking for is a conditional use in a subdivision of 5 existing lots within the existing Riverside subdivision. The purpose of the subdivision is to provide 5 mixed-use townhomes within with a commercial workshop on the first floor. The second level would be the townhome portion. It would be 5 individual lots. The existing 5 lots that we are re-subdividing, we would have those property lines repositioned and relocated to accommodate the widths and depths of what we're looking for. The purpose of this, because it's an industrial area, we are asking for this, given the fact that it's allowed if we have a mixed use component. So that's what we're proposing with the lower level commercial workshop. The development would include a private roadway serving our 5 lots, which would pass by I think it's 4 lots between. Yeah. And so part of that is obviously we need to extend some of the sewer systems, some of the water systems, some of the fire. We're accommodating for all the snow storage on site. All the parking is being provided on site outside of even the commercial garages. So all the sites are appropriately parked. We've accommodated for fire truck turnaround. We've been in discussions with the fire department about what the extension of the fire line looks like and the apparatus involved there. But I think that through those discussions, we would work through those as we continue through what the final plat and remainder of the preliminary plat would look like. The site itself is currently undeveloped. It is adjacent to existing commercial developments to our east. There's nothing developed to the north, and then we have the G7 camping property to our west, and then directly to our south is the let's just say the snow storage pit for the city. That property is fairly sloped. We're, I would say, probably 45 feet-ish above what would be considered common level ground down in the snow storage area. So really to our south, there's almost there's very little chance of that ever being easily developed or connected to what we're currently proposing with our development. Very high level. I'm stand for any questions. I'm sure Brian will fill you in on some of the discussions that we've had up to this point, but it's been a good collaborative effort up to this stage. We've worked with Public Works in trying to determine what makes sense for some of the service extensions in the roadway. And then we'll work with Brian fairly extensively on how we achieve this particular entitlement for this particular zone. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Real quick, so on the back side, they have the small kind of storage, is that storage unit size doors? Roughly the small doors in the backside, or how?
Yeah, those doors, what we had initially anticipated there was purely just to provide some additional light air into that lower level. They're not intended for access. We currently have some drainage swale that's planned across the backside because our roof slopes to there. We have no intention of ever providing any sort of access out of the back of back of any of these units. The door is purely for functionality of the workshop space, that somebody can roll the door up and they can close some things out, but it's not, there's not any driveways connected there. It's not being designed for any particular access, given that there is going to be a drainage swale there. There's going to be landscaping there. So for us, it was more of a convenience for the function and operation of the commercial workshop. However, if that is a concern that there could be potential access there, we would just as easily put some windows in and take the doors out as part of our application. It's insignificant in that regard.
One other quick question. I couldn't quite tell from the satellite, but I thought there was one lot between the south end of your lots and where it drops down to the city. It seemed like there was one individual ownership on the south end.
If you go back to my site plan, Brian. Yep.
Or is that part?
This kind of shows the grading here. There is a lot here. It is a platted lot. However, you can see with the width of this lot, which is generally what this lot width is, you can see that the topography here basically drops off, and it's an unusable lot. One of the parties in this particular development actually owns that lot.
Okay.
So we're not making it a part of this application because it's not really developable, but for all intents and purposes, we own that lot.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant at this point?
You see a commercial development, a shop on the lower floor. Is that what I've seen in the top, upper left-hand corner there? Is that the front facing view?
Yeah, so these are, this is Simmons Street here.
Yeah.
This is what we're considering effectively the front elevation. That's what this is here.
Okay.
This is just a different perspective, but these large overhead doors would be intended to serve the commercial uses downstairs on the main level. The man doors, there's a single man door for each, let's just say unit. And that door, if you go to the next page, it might take us to the floor. Yeah. So it comes into what is basically a common stairway. So you would have from that point a door that would take you to the downstairs storage or commercial workshop, or you'd have the opportunity to go upstairs into what would be the actual living unit. So it really is trying to be sort of a live work option within this particular zone. As far as the design review is concerned, this is intended to be a metal building. It has a low sloped roof. It will be a steel building system. There are accent, maybe flip through, go to the perspectives there a little bit. This kind of gives you a little bit of flavor in terms of the color and context and design. Even though this is a metal building, we do have our balconies for some private outdoor space. And then individually within the lower level, we're still working on what that actual material is, but it would be an accent type material, whether it's a wood or a rust steel or something to that effect that would differentiate the two levels. But go to maybe the next one there. Kind of gives you a different perspective. And then the last one.
So if it's a commercial building, it's, I guess it's not zone, excuse me, but it's put together for a commercial building, but it can be a private residence also.
Exactly.
Is that a problem with the fact that one side could be a commercial building, the other side could be a private residence as far as noise and that type of thing, or hours of operation?
We haven't really determined what the hours of operation would be, but these would traditionally be an 8 to 5. The intended purpose is that generally whoever is living up here is being able to work down here. So they're really more of a live work opportunity for whoever purchases these 5 or individual units. So if they're going to be disturbing themselves, they're likely going to be disturbing themselves.
I'm just thinking if someone lives next to them and it was a commercial operation down below,
Sure.
That would be I would think would be kind of a problem, but.
Yeah, I think that with this, the uniqueness of what this would be, given that it's live work, I think it's sort of understood and known, given that that's what the building is and what it's being entitled and zoned for.
Yeah, and of course it has all the things to make it applicable for a commercial operation too, so, okay.
Commissioners, any other questions for Steve or that? All right, I think that's good for now. Well, that's not for anything. Staff report.
All righty, yes, thank you. This is the big day of complicated right-of-way questions. This is a 5-unit subdivision on an existing platted Riverside subdivision, which I believe was platted in 1953 with a 14-foot alley and a 25-foot Simmons Street to provide access to these properties. Just to the south of this property is future riverfront park area, which is generally off a cliff from this one. In conversations with the applicant and public works, we've gone around and determined that the most suitable right-of-way type for this project would be a private street. As it is serving 5 lots currently, but there's ample opportunity for future access to also take it off this private street from the RV park and the current site of the airplane to the north of the property. Develop further. So then at that point, it would need to be dedicated private street, so is not a dedicated or public street, because I discussed earlier, it really has an opportunity to continue on and be a connected street that provides easy shopping and beneficial connectivity to the general community. And so in order to do that, they need to work with the neighbors to dedicate an additional 35 feet of, we could get to a 60-foot width, which are standard for a local private street. They have started in on that process. There's a condition, apply for a vacation application to vacate the private street prior to a city council hearing. They need to get that application in. There's also providing authorization from the other property owners to be a party to this whole operation. No storage, the language in here, the applicant has pointed out that there is no storage shown in the plans. I couldn't find it in the report. It's here. I think it needs a little work. It blocks the garage doors on all of the units, at least partially, and completely blocks the garage door and the main door on the southernmost unit. And it only accounts for the part of the site that is not within the future right of way. Yeah, as discussed earlier, it shows garage doors on the east faces. There's a condition of approval in there to either remove those or put some sort of a permanent curb stop type device traveling through them. Generally, if there's an opportunity for people to drive their side-by-side razor somewhere, they're going to try and do it. Yeah, with that, I'll stand for any questions.
So they still need to change their snow removal, or that's already been in discussion?
Like I said, they do have stone in the plans for private property portion of the private street portion, so they need more right of way. I also believe it is in the incorrect location. But I think either modifying the condition of approval number 4, or as is, then I can continue to work with the applicant.
Commissioners, any other questions for Brian before we go to Morgan? All right, Morgan.
Hello. So I have a letter for this application for my engineering review number 1. It currently doesn't meet our standards, but it's getting there with some work and some of the comments that I've listed out in my letter. One of the big comments is that they do need to go through the vacation process because Simmons Street is currently public right of way. It's in space, but we can work through that, as Brian put it, as a condition for city council. I have some comments in there just regarding the plan in general, once that gets more finalized and refined. Part of the comments to go towards the design of Simmons Street and working through some of those drainage concerns that we have. Simmons Street does need to be paved to meet city standards because private streets also need to be city standard or be designed to city standards. Let's see. Brian mentioned snow storage for the roadway That's not identified currently. No public works question regarding the driveway width because it's 130 feet in width, and just put the question out there to be reduced to help with some of the snow storage and utility placement. We talked about the garage doors on the east side of the property and that they're not going to be used for vehicular use, which alleviates some of our concerns because we didn't even think about the alleyway for access because it's so narrow. Let's see, and then drainage is another concern that we just need to work through, and how all the overflow and the runoff will be addressed from this project and the right of way, and how to manage that appropriately so we don't cause issues in the future when it's built and constructed. They will be required to have an 8-inch water main that they install because they are using, it will be used for fire suppression, and an 8-inch is the minimum that we will accept for that. We've been talking to the fire department. They'll have sufficient flows according to our hydraulic model. And then we just need to work through water meter sizing once we get to that point in the design. There's still some work to be done, but I think we're on our way.
Is there any issues with the proximity to where it drops down the hill or any soil erosion or anything of concern there that would come up? And do we have to geotech, anything like that?
That's part of our concern with the runoff, the distance from the road, supposedly outlet towards the park. But I don't know if we'll need a geotech report. It's more of just providing those practices to help the erosion, to slow down the water before it gets there, so it doesn't create a hazard and erode away that's the slope.
And the buildings are far enough away that you're comfortable, there's no issue with that?
Right now, I don't know for sure because I don't know where all that overflow is going from the property. We didn't get a detailed grading plan, but we would work towards moving it away so it doesn't erode away.
All right, commissioners, any other questions for Morgan? All right.
None for me.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Okay, well, this is a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing. I don't know if we have anybody here. Is there anybody online or on the phone that would like to comment regarding this application? If you're on the phone, you may need to hit *6 to unmute yourself. Is there anybody here in Legion Hall that would like to comment regarding this application? Nope. All right, well, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, discussion, or, well, I guess there's no rebuttal, so. Is there anything more that's?
I could comment on.
Yeah, if you'd want to comment on a couple of questions.
Just to touch on a few of the items in terms of snow storage, I think had we been able to get more in depth with, where it's actually located on the site through some of the discussions, we probably could accommodate what is acceptable for Brian and for Morgan. So I think there's enough space, there's enough area on the site outside of our building envelope and outside of some of the parking areas that we can accommodate the necessary snow storage for the property. On top of that, even though, again, it's not part of this application, we do own this parcel. Obviously, we don't want to encourage additional erosion there, but we do have the opportunity to use some of the front of that parcel if we so chose, or if it's acceptable. In terms of vacation discussions for the private roadway, we've been in discussion with the RV park, and we've also been in touch with our neighbor to the north. And all signs from their perspective are showing positive, and we're just working with Brian on what the affidavit, if you will, looks like for them to be party to this application. We're simply working through that terminology now to present to them, and there hasn't been any objection to what our application is as presented thus far. So from that perspective, we don't have a lot. In terms of the drainage and erosion, I think it's a great point. But we do have the ability around the property, given our setback, to utilize some of that as drainage swale and area to contain some of our stormwater and runoff. As far as the driveway width, that might be the only thing that we would try to maintain in our current design, given the fact that this is the end of a private roadway, to restrict this to a particular driveway width. I would just ask that we try to leave it the way that we're showing it, simply because it's the end of the road that's a private road. Doesn't really ever have the opportunity to be extended in the future. And so, trying to introduce a smaller driveway width along this property line, I'm not sure what that's really solving. It doesn't really have a lot of safety concerns. If anything, I would say that it works better simply because it gives emergency services more opportunity to turn around and access our site from any point along our western property line. So from that perspective, I'd like to try to maintain our current driveway width at its current width. So does that stand for any questions?
I know we're obviously anticipating kind of a work-live type unit, but they can be separated, correct? I mean, obviously there's two separate doors, so is there a purchase or potentially a purchase from below and above, right?
No purchase.
So they have to buy.
It's not condo.
So-
Condo is,
Yeah, so it's townhomes.
they own the.
So, okay, I want to make sure, so it's one ownership.
Yep.
Do you anticipate allowing any vacation rental? They'll have that as,
We are going to have significant CCNRs to
Okay.
protect, as well as time of operation and all the other
I'll be there.
stuff to prevent a nuisance owner's noise, and vacation or Airbnb, all of that stuff. We're gonna have that worked out with our CCNRs.
okay,
There's 5 property lines. There's no condominium within that property line.
well, I was thinking more than sell plus renting the lower for somebody else to do their thing while they have their apartment up above, or no, okay.
It's all intended.
That won't be any part of it then, right? Okay.
And that generally falls within the guise of the building code as well. International building code, it has some definition about what a lived work is. That's really what this is intended to be.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Okay, I think we're good for now. All right. So discussion. Ryan, on the driveway, is that something that, what are the city's thoughts on that?
In our code, this is a very non-compliant driveway. But as the applicant stated, it serves nicely for a fire truck turnaround and et cetera. And as on a private street, city's not the one that has to figure out how to plow the whole thing.
Something that staff could work with staff on?
Yeah, for sure.
Is there an item of conditional approval that we would need to address regarding that? Nice. Say me if you know right where it is off the top of your head.
I think it might be addressed in the.
Oh, it's in engineering. So it's not necessarily a condition of approval. It's just something you guys can still
I think the conditions refer to the engineering report.
Right, final engineering approval.
Yeah, that still has to get final approval, so we're not, there's nothing set in stone on that as of now. Okay, good.
Is it a dead end street or?
Yeah.
Private road, and dead end's right at the last unit there, I guess, or one at the top or the one at the bottom? The one at the bottom is the bottom, okay.
Drops down the hole there where the,
Okay.
will be someday. Any other questions or comments for the commissioners?
No. No.
And it kind of seems to fit for the area. I've dealt with that property in the past and know that, you know, it does have some uniqueness with the way it ends into the, basically where it drops down into the old dump area pit. And I don't think you're gonna have much other things that would fit much better, really. And I think as long as they can figure out the roadway, make sure everything's good for fire department, seems pretty good.
Yeah.
CUP standards.
Yeah.
Commissioners, do you want to go through the CUP standards? I personally don't think I need them on this one, but we certainly can.
I don't.
If you'll give me like 1 minute just to.
Yep, absolutely.
Just start reading, and if you guys have things to object about.
Okay.
All right.
Can you read it in a minute?
Go fast. Constitute conditional use authorized in the zone involved. Be harmonious with and in accord with the general objectives and with any specific objectives of the comprehensive plan and or this title. Be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing or likely character of the neighborhood, and that such use will not change the essential character of the surrounding area. Not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of such proposed use. Not cause any substantially harmful environmental consequences to any land or waters within the planning jurisdiction. Not create excessive additional public costs for public facilities and services, and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Be served adequately by public facilities and services, including highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water and sewer, and schools. The applicant may be required as a condition of approval to mitigate any deficient public service. Not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, or conditions of operation that will cause unreasonable production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, odors, or other forms of pollution. Have vehicular approaches to the property so designed as not to create a detrimental interference with traffic on surrounding public or private thoroughfares or affect the pedestrian environment. Not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of an important natural, scenic, or historic feature. Be on a site of sufficient size to accommodate the proposed use, including the yards, open spaces, snow storage, walls, fences, parking areas, loading zones, and design standards applicable. Have a minimal negative economic impact on the neighborhood or surrounding community. I will also point out that there are opportunities with conditions of approval to place limitations on hours of operation, length of time for the conditional use permit before it expires, additional landscaping, and additional or reduced off-street parking.
Okay. All right, Christine, did you have your thought in place?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. I think the hours of operation and as far as the vacation rentals, sounds like it's going to be addressed in their CCNRs and kind of you could control under that. parking area, snow removal, we'll do with engineering, or the driveway, I should say, and deal with engineering with the driveway and snow storage. And again, they do. Now, if it goes into the adjoining lot that's not part of this approval, does that have to come back to us, or is that something staff can just approve or get approved at the next level at the city, at council?
The language in the current condition of approval is provide 1/3 or a non-revocable agreement to store an equivalent amount of snow off-site.
Okay, so
So they could
do that without having to come back. Okay, okay, good.
You're talking about that lower area right there, that's.
Yeah, there's a little bit of partial lot there that, or there is a lot there that,
Yeah,
that they could potentially utilize, and they don't have to come back to us for anything extra if that ends up over there. So that's good.
Okay.
All right, so if we do a motion, do you want us to separate these out with the conditional use permit and then the other items,
I
or?
think it is a good policy. I don't know what's gonna happen if you guys ever vote opposite directions on these, but you guys are approving, do as one condition, things that you're recommending approval, do it separate.
Okay. So let's take on the conditional use permit first. Okay, have a motion.
I move to recommend approval of CUP 2206 and SUB 2206 with the staff recommended conditions of approval.
To whom?
To who? Oh, to the county commissioners, I think.
City council.
City council, that's what I meant.
there you go. Second.
All right, we have a motion approved second. Do a roll call vote. Right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemec,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock.
Yes.
All right, so unanimous, that's approved. Now we have the design review and the scenic route application.
I move to approve design review 2223 and scenic route 2215 with the staff recommended conditions of approval.
Second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion approved and a second.
Second, yes.
Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemec,
Yes.
Commissioner Rock.
Yes.
All right, that's unanimous. Motion is approved. All right. Okay, we do have, originally we had a second preliminary plan review, and I believe that applicant is now with us. So we'll jump back to that real quick. Justin Anning, are you online with us?
Yes, I am on the line. Thank you.
Okay, great. You'd like to present your application?
Yes, that would be great. I'm assuming you all have that in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a property located adjacent to Ponderosa Park that we've owned since 2017. And we are basically the last house on University Lane. So the Ponderosa Park is basically our neighbor to the north. And then we have, I think it's 7 or 8 neighbors to the south of us. In that neighborhood, I think it's total 8 or 9 neighbors there. We have been using it as our own second home. We share it with another family that's from Las Vegas. We're 2 families from Las Vegas. We've been coming to McCall for about 20 years now. And so we bought this house with this other family, and we use it for ourselves during most of the summer. So we're usually there June through like mid-August, but to just help supplement the property for us and kind of pay for some of the expenses on it, we use it and have been using it as a short-term rental, mostly the last 2 weeks in August and the entire month of September. And then sometimes we'll rent it a little bit in the winter time. So it probably rents out as a short-term rental, I would say maybe for about a total of about 10 weeks for the year. And with the new regulations in place, we applied for the short-term rental permit, which I actually just received in the mail this week. That's been approved. And because the house, we did a full renovation on the property back in 2017 through 2019 or 20, which was all approved through planning and zoning, and we used a local builder by the name of Payette Builders, and obviously you have that final permit for certificate of occupancy to use the house. We've had that now for a couple of years. Now with the new regulations, we're also applying for a conditional use permit that allows us to have over 11. The property, I think at this point with the new regulations, qualifies for 6 parking spaces and up to 14 guests staying in the property. And we've been, like I said, we've been doing this for a few years. I haven't heard of any complaints that we've ever had. We have a very high-end property, so the price point to rent from us is, I think weeds out a lot of the possible challenges some short-term rentals have experienced in McCall. And so we typically have a more high-end client, that's renting from us. And we're very communicative and open with them just in regards to how we need the property to be treated. And, we're usually we spend some time interviewing our potential renters or users of the property to make sure that we're getting good people in there to rent. So at this time, that was the purpose of our conditional use permit, was to see if we can get approval for that beyond the 10, I think it is, and up to the 14 that we can have there on the property. I apologize. It's a little fuzzy. Could you repeat that, please?
Did you use a property management company to manage that for you?
No, what we do is we actually manage the property ourselves, but we have hired a local resident by the name of Shannon Moss, who works for our builder, Payette Builders, but he is there and available, and we've made him available. His information is always included in all of our rental packets to all of our clients in case of any emergencies. And then we also have family that live in McCall, so we have two sets of family members that live up there that we have available as a backup to that. Plus, we also have a full-time cleaning company that comes in and cleans the property after each use and is available to us when we need it as well for any situation that may arise.
Okay, because as part of the permit, we do need somebody that's available basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That could be emergency contact that has to be able to respond within an hour. So it sounds like you have that taken care of. You'll have that in the application.
That's correct. We needed the same thing as part of the short-term rental permit. So we've already submitted that in that as well. And we have the document that was required to be signed by Shannon Moss to do that. So that information has been provided. That's correct.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have any.
Staff, any input at this point?
Don't think a whole lot.
Pretty basic. Okay, yeah, I think you got everything as far as what we need at this point. So I'd say we continue to work forward with staff and moving everything forward with it.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now go back. Second line here. Okay, now we have a design review and scenic route application for 300 North Mission for Camp Pinewood. Who do we have here? No, he's here. Is that?
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Kyle Mashek. I live at 106 Mather Road. I am the Assistant Director for Camp Pinewood. Where I've been on staff since November 15th, 2022. So before we have two projects, I believe that we are applying to build for the board fund this year. Which one are we going to look at first, Brian?
You're in charge.
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the awnings on the lawns. I believe is how we all goes. We currently have two patios on our lodge that are they're just roofs that cover the patios. We would like to take those existing patios off, replace them with a concrete slab, solid walls, so that we can include that inside of our facility, keep it heated, those kind of things. So it gives us a larger capacity during winter time. We use it for dining purposes outside during the summertime for all of our summer camps, but we would like to include those into a more of a internal capacity so that we can have those heated and maximize our capacity during the winter time. We have several large groups that come up through the winter time, and we don't have the capacity to keep them inside. So in a couple of weeks, we have a group of about 120 youth coming up in the new facility for a retreat. And so that allows us to have more capacity for that. We would use the existing floors are wood. We would remove those, replace them with concrete, put in the walls. And so as it would appear just like you have it here on the screen, currently it just has a rail and a metal roof. And so that's how that would be with openings. There's current windows on the side of the lodge. Those window openings would not be changed other than the window would be taken out and the bottom would be removed. So the structure would still be the same for support and all those beams. That way there would be walk-through openings between the outer patios or porches and the inner lodge. So any questions on that one, or should I continue on with the second project?
Commissioners, any questions with this part of the application? It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Okay, no questions? Okay. The second project is a new bunkhouse. This is a essentially four bunkhouses in one. This would replace two of our small cabins that we have on our property. This would allow us to have 48 campers from this facility. There would be completely separate bathrooms for each cabin. So as you can see in the drawings, there are separate entrances on the lower, front and back, and upper front and back that divides that building into four separate cabins, all in one unit. So that allows us to have two counselors with 10 students or campers in each cabin, which is what we'd like to have for safety. This will increase our capacity. We will lose two cabins. This will replace two cabins, which bunk 16 total people between the two cabins, which will give us increased capacity of 32 more campers and staff total with this facility. Last year, we had two camps where we had to turn away youth because we didn't have enough beds for them. And so with the growing demands and needs of our camp, we would like to have this cabin approved. So the drainage will be the same drainage that we have currently. There won't change. We won't add any driveways. This will go to our current gravel driveway. The snow removal is in the same location as our current facilities. This does increase our shower and sink and toilet total amount. I did file the application or a number with the city. It appears that we are undersized currently in our meter, and so we will have to have that increased. It looks like we are undersized for our current facility, so we will need to go from a 1 inch to a 1.5. However, we have not had any problems with water pressure in any of the facilities, but it does not meet the standard. So this would put us at 225 or 222.5, which a 1 inch meter is scores between 40 and 85. So we would have to increase to a 1.5 inch meter, which would give us a buffer of about 150 more points. So on that rating, so that would still give us the capacity to build 2 more of these cabins. If that was all approved for the future, we would still have enough capacity with that 1.5 inch meter added to that. So that is.
You say cabins, are they open in the wintertime? You open in the
We do
wintertime?
have, most of our cabins are heated and open in the wintertime. We do have 3 cabins that we do winterize and close down because they don't have sufficient heat.
So these would not be, these would be winterized?
No, this would replace 2 of the cabins that are not winterized. They are heated. This would be heated and used year round.
Yeah, okay.
I noticed in our packet, have you talked with the sewer district and their requirements for the sewer connections?
I currently have not talked with the sewer. I believe Charlie had, but I have not.
Okay, the cabins, I'm guessing since they probably shut them down, they're not winterized, did they have sewer connections?
Oh, the 2 that this
The old ones?
replacement already have sewer connections. They are not winterized.
Okay.
So that it already currently is connected to the sewer system.
Okay. I think in there, it's required that you need to discuss with the sewer district the capacity.
Okay.
So it's very important you talk with them and make sure it qualifies for, because they have some limitations right now.
Okay.
I believe, Brian, you have that as part of the conditions?
It's a permit.
Yeah, because I know I saw Jeff had in there that they had to have more information provided before they could, yeah, he's going to need to know what you had and what you're doing to
Okay.
see the flow, and hopefully it won't be an issue for you.
Yeah, so it will not change the grade of the facility. It will take, basically it will take it'll overtake the footprint of 2 existing cabins. So yes, we will discuss with them on that.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for applicant before we go to staff report?
None for me.
Okay. I'll let you know if we have any more here, sort of. Ryan.
Alrighty, yes, thank you. As discussed, this is an application. I was before you guys last month. There was some confusion on what exactly we were looking at, so we kicked it back to this meeting to get a little more clarity. They are proposing to enclose the wings on the dining hall and to construct a new bunkhouse. Generally pretty straightforward as far as design goes. It is pretty far off, well screened by landscaping and existing trees. There's a condition of approval since it is a rather tall building to get an accurate survey done of the site to avoid an instance where the building height accidentally winds up being taller than 35 feet due to modification of existing grade. We have that topo on site or on file, we can compare and confirm before they get to our building things. One thing that I wanted to point out to you guys, I did not include as a condition of approval, but think it's worth discussing a little bit. The pillars on the bases or the bases of these feet or posts are proposed to be concrete CMU block. Whether that constitutes a natural material at all is up to you guys to determine. And yeah, with that, I will stand for any questions.
So on that, are you thinking more it needs to be like the rock?
I wanted to bring it up to you guys to just see if you had any strong feelings about including requirement for it to be a rock wainscot or something along those lines to be a little natural.
The other buildings out there, do they have that kind of rock that you're talking about, or?
They're all pretty old.
Yeah, they're old.
And this sets back
Yeah, it's,
quite a ways. You're not going to see it unless you're well into the property. So I was thinking, yeah, I mean, even though you're scenic route, it's a couple 100 feet back probably. from what I can tell on this drawing here. Yeah, I mean, it's really, I don't know, my opinion is way, way beyond where we would have questions there. But something to discuss. Commissioners, any other thoughts, questions for Brian at this point before we go to Morgan?
Nope.
All right. Morgan?
There wasn't too much to review for this application. I do have a comment in there that initially it was just to review the addition of the bunkhouse, but we resolved that confusion with the last hearing, and it's for the whole package that was submitted. It doesn't change my last two comments that I provided, of just meter sizing, and it sounds like you can figure out some of that. I just need to see that information, and then just showing how the property conforms with their previous drainage plan for the property. That was about it. Sounds like it'll be pretty minimal from what was described. A few more boxes to tick for my approval.
I mean, we had one comment or a letter. There was an application in the past to do a couple modular homes in there. Has that been discussed?
Yeah, so I passed that along to John Powell's building official. He verified that they have been issued a certificate of occupancy. They're
done.
They're done. They're just a little less than ideal looking at times.
Okay, but they're done. Okay, so that's not a non-issue. All right, any questions for Morgan, commissioners?
No questions for me.
All right, with that, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody online or on the phone that would like to comment on this application? If you're muted, you might check that, or if you're on the phone, you might need to *6 to unmute yourself. Again, anybody online or on the phone that would like to comment? Hearing none, is there anybody here at Legion Hall that would like to comment regarding this application? Okay, hearing none, we will close the public comment. Kyle, would you like to answer any questions that we talked about, any rebuttal? There's no real rebuttal, but any other additional comments?
Yeah, I could actually, the letter that was addressed to what was that?
Yeah, so if you come up.
So just, there was a letter submitted by my neighbor, actually, about the completion of the projects that were in question, modular homes. Before taking the position, I did have a discussion with that neighbor about the condition of the property, which was not up to my standards. And since I live in there, it will be improved. However, I got here when the snow was on the ground. So we were in agreement. I actually had discussion with her husband yesterday about the process of that and what we plan to improve. And so we have developed a good relationship with that neighbor to improve the property so it is it flows better with the neighborhood and looks appropriate for the current area. So that is something that we have addressed.
Is that your neighbor to the north or neighbor to the west?
This would be neighbor to the east.
To the east.
The modular homes are north of camp on Mather.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so then it is the neighbor to the east where the property 106 has not been properly landscaped. And then there was a lean-to added to the property, which I don't think was properly, wasn't structurally built correctly, and or I don't believe it was actually applied for, so it will be removed. And then the proper applications will be made to add to those in the future, to those facilities. Then there was a question on the water fixture unit worksheet. You didn't receive that?
Not yet.
Okay, I must not have forwarded that correctly. I do have a handwritten, but I can resend that to you. You have that in place, so I will work on that and have that sent tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions that you have?
Commissioners, any other questions for Kyle?
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, nope, we're good. I think that was a no.
Okay.
All right. Commissioners. Discussion. Any thoughts, concerns? Say I've been on the property many times. It's a large property, goes all the way down the river, almost all the way down to the bridge.
Yeah.
A lot of these set back quite a ways off the road. I think realistically, as long as he gets the approval from the sewer district on the bunkhouse. And then with the other conditions of approval, I don't see much for questions there unless anybody else has any other thoughts.
No, I agree.
I don't have any questions either.
Tony, you want to give a shot for? And actually, let's see, we can do these together.
Okay. Let's see. I make a motion that we approve DR 22-26. And we do a separate or?
I think we can do these together.
Okay, SR 22-16. 300 Mission Street. Contingent on staff's recommendations and we have to take it to.
Have conditions of
Steps to just approval. Do we take it in front of the city council or?
No, I think on these we just approve.
The deciding body on that.
Okay. That's my motion.
Second.
That works. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I,
All right. All opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Okay, thank you. Okay, and we'll go down to new business. Looks like we got application or code revisions. Michelle or Brian, and I'm guessing Michelle maybe do the presentation.
I can do it, Brian, unless you want to.
I believe in it.
Sorry, what did you say, Brian?
You can do it.
All right. So let me just pull this up. So basically, this is the code amendment to the planning and zoning code. It's related to the work session that we had on it about scenic route, prohibiting scenic routes with, or sorry, let me start over. A prohibition on service stations with gasoline or diesel fuel islands that are located on the scenic route. So since we last talked about it at the work session, we met and we felt like it was better to keep this code amendment relatively simple. I know we talked about charging stations and some other things, and we decided to separate out that issue as part of a kind of a future effort with climate action planning. So basically what this code amendment does is it adds a new definition of gasoline and diesel fueling islands. It also modifies the existing service station definition, and it includes within the land use tables we added where it says service station. There's now a category with gasoline or diesel fueling islands. And so that's separated out so that we can have service stations with or without. And so basically within your packet, you can see Brian did some good maps to show you existing conditions of where our existing service stations are, where they're currently allowed, and then where they would be allowed with this code amendment. So this would be a recommendation to the city council, and then we would need to meet with the county to determine if this is something that they would also want to adopt for the impact area. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. It's relatively simple. It does touch a number of code sections, but we wanted to kind of keep it just sort of focused on the service stations with gasoline pumps.
So with the, I mean, it's with the county doing their review of stuff, do you anticipate them adopting this or waiting a while for the impact zone? Kind of like we did with the vacation rental thing. I mean, they.
So I actually, you may have received an email from me today with a letter that was a follow-up to our meeting about the impact area and the 10-year review.
Yep.
And so our suggestion would be to get together with them and have basically kind of a work session on those specific topics. I feel like this policy decision could be pretty easily delineated if it ends up being different between the city limits and the impact area. But it may be something that they're also interested in considering. So be further south, especially as it relates to on the highway. It's really the impact area.
Yeah.
So we're suggesting that at this point, we felt like with the short-term rentals, we had to keep moving forward on that just because that was time sensitive. And but in reality, when you look at things like the short-term rentals, it's pretty close to Valley County's code, with the exception of the fire inspection. And a few other things, but it's pretty close. So we think it's worth kind of just going back and bringing all of these code amendments. There was a cleanup code amendment. There's the short-term rental, which is basically the only places where we have a difference between the city limits and the impact area. And then ultimately, this is a new effort too. Again, we thought that this was time sensitive, so we wanted to keep this moving forward.
So do you anticipate this would go in front of the commissioners in prior to the other items?
So I anticipate that we'll reach out to them specifically about this item to try to get it scheduled pretty soon, or at least provide them information before it goes to city council. But I think either way, it's a recommendation to city council and potentially the county commissioners.
Okay.
It'll be up to them if they ultimately want to. Typically what happens when we do policy changes, we tend to kind of do a check-in with both governing boards to see if there's interest before we start the process. But because we were in this period of where the county wasn't considering any ordinance changes, we weren't necessarily holding workshops with them when we were developing this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And then did you have a timeline or an estimated time frame of talking about the charging stations and how that would relate?
So we have kind of a whole list of code amendments for this next year that we'll be bringing forward, and we are also looking at kind of a timeline for sort of climate action planning. And so we felt like maybe it was better to bundle all of those efforts together into kind of a sort of a package of code amendments as opposed to kind of piecemealing it. So it's just easier to track it that way.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions for Michelle?
Not right this minute.
Okay.
And there's nothing that amiss that's changing anything for the non-conforming use. Once they're all designated non-conforming, they still have those same items in the code that allows for repairs and maintenance and all that. There's nothing that's changing anything for their current use. Other than that they're non-conforming.
Yeah. And
some are already considered non-conforming.
And this is designed fairly intentionally separating out the fuel islands from the convenience store type use to allow expansion and development of the convenience store portion.
Is that in here?
No.
I know we talked about that they were allowed to do that long as they didn't.
I don't know if the overlying philosophy made it into the packet, but yeah, we did discuss that was, but the code is written to allow for that.
To allow for what, the charging stations?
No, if they wanted to expand the building, it wouldn't be expanding the gas station.
Fuel island portion, non-conforming rather than the entire property.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is why we added that distinction in the land use tables within each zone. So that if somebody decides they want to expand the convenience store portion, they would be able to do so.
Okay.
So am I seeing correctly? I'm looking through that use table again, just to make sure that I'm understanding. So service station, so we've got service station, and then we've got service station with or without fuel stations.
Right.
Service station. All right, and then where did that definition go? Wait, but the definition is with or without. So how come we're defining, how come in the table some of them are just called service station and some of them are called service station, comma, with gasoline or diesel without?
For the sake of simplicity, when I was writing it, if the use portion was different or was the same on with or without, for example, in residential zones, they're treated the same whether they have fuel island or.
Right, they're just not permitted.
Yeah. I
Okay,
did not bother separating it out in the table. When there's differentiating regulations between the two, that's when they became two different lines on the use chart.
It's really not service stations if they don't have diesel or gasoline, are they? I mean, they really, you're calling a service.
They could still have a auto repair.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
the service station is fairly broad and includes stuff like a oil change shop or
Oh, I see. Like
minor vehicle repair sorts.
the one off of Commerce over there. Yeah, okay.
but from what I'm seeing, there are, service stations are not a straight up permitted use in any of these.
That is correct.
They're all conditional, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the only place that they're specifically prohibited in the scenic route overlay section. So that's
Right,
Title 3, Chapter 7.
okay.
And so that really is that 150 feet off the highway or off the scenic route.
Yeah, okay. See that here. And only with fuel stations are prohibited.
Correct, yeah, so you can still have service stations without fuel stations or fuel islands within the scenic route. Overlay.
Okay. We have to do something, we have to. Is this an
Well,
act-
it is a public hearing, so
Oh, it's public hearing, okay.
yeah, so if there's any other questions for the staff at this point? Okay. Then we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody online or on the phone that wish to comment? And you may need to.
Comment.
Oh,
Well, I will just.
okay, anybody here? Go for it. Yeah.
Lynn Lewinsky, 713 Broken Rain Road. I've come to so many meetings about this. I'm a little confused because I haven't reread all of the ordinance changing, but my hope is that we're not having the availability of the nightmare that we kind of did with the current proposed station and a nice little cluster of restaurants and up and coming businesses. I think it's important for the community to have small town entrepreneurial businesses and encourage that without the fear of an industrial use right there at the tables. And so this seems to promote that idea for me, and I just hope that you all keep going through these kind of conversations and discussions and step up for the right things. It's interesting to come tonight.
Thanks.
I will also add, I received an email this evening from Wayne Early. I'll read it in because it's short. Brian, FWIW, we tried a few times to log into the P&Z meeting using the conference call and could never hear anything. Everyone here in the office is in support of eliminating gas stations from the scenic route. Wayne.
Okay, well,
Is anybody else here, I guess, who wish to comment? Don't believe so. Oh, once again, anybody online or on the phone that would like to comment on this application? All right, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Any rebuttal, Michelle?
I don't have any rebuttal other than I think I was sitting for so long and didn't talk that I just started talking and couldn't talk. So sorry if I did a bad job explaining it, but I think it's pretty simple. And I think you all understand the main points of the code amendment.
So this would be, is there a recommendation that we need to do the city council, or is this still continuing some massaging?
No, this would be, if you're ready to consider this code amendment, it would be a recommendation to both the city council and the county commissioners.
Okay.
And whenever you have a moment or are prepared to close the public hearing, I can't remember if you did it.
Yeah, I closed it. Okay, staff, or not staff, commissioners, any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
No, none for me. I was scrolling to see if we had a nice clean motion to read, but I'm not seeing one. Those have been really nice, by the way. So
I believe this would be a recommendation
If you guys like me to
approve for the,
motion and someone can say so moved.
all right, let you do that.
sure.
I move that we recommend approval of the proposed code amendment CA 22-03 to the Valley County Board of County Commissioners and McCall City Council for approval as written.
Very good. Second.
You gotta still move it.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, I can't do that. Okay, I see it.
So moved. And
And the second.
And the second's here
second,
already, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Here's none. Motion carries.
Just right eventually.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Okay, now we have design review 2228 at 2225 Payette. We have Claire Nemsberg for William and Julie Loom. Is Claire, I believe, online?
I am. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Thank you for waiting for us. Go ahead, Claire, if you can hear.
Oh, we are applying, I believe Julie's on the line as well. We are applying to build a new residence on a property on Payette Drive. It needs to go through design review because it's higher than 30 feet and larger than 3,500 square feet in covered area. I guess I don't have a whole lot other to say. Single family, 2-story. They've chosen to build this as 2 stories, partly so they don't cover as much of the ground, and partly because that affords them some views from the 2nd-story living area.
All right. Commissioners, any questions for Claire at this point?
None for me at this point.
All right, Brian, staff reports.
Thank you. As said, this is a structure that is larger than 3,500 square feet It is also less than 5,000 square feet, so normally we wouldn't bother you guys with it. It would be an administrative approval. Our code requires buildings taller than, or does not allow for administrative approval on buildings taller than 30 feet tall. So for the of a couple of extra feet, we are here. They have provided a 1 foot grade topo, so I did not make that a condition of approval on this application. Yeah, it's very straightforward. There's some lighting items that the applicant has already provided me with. I would recommend keeping it as a condition of approval so that I can review it a little closer. And then, yeah, do a tree consult with the city arborist. But yeah, other than that, pretty straightforward application. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Brian, commissioners? Any standard? Morgan, anything that you like that?
I did provide a review of this application. The main comment was just providing a stormwater drainage report because it's in the code that it's needed. It's not a very extensive one. It doesn't need to be put together by a professional engineer, so there shouldn't be too much concern on this side, but just checking all the boxes that we're doing our best not to impact other properties.
Okay.
Runoff.
Any questions for Morgan, commissioners? With that, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody online or on the phone that would like to comment on this application? And if you're on the phone, you may need to hit *6. Okay, hearing none, is there anybody here that would, at the Legion Hall, would like to comment? I'm guessing not. We'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, any questions?
What page is that on, Brian? Is it in the
Almost
back
the
or?
last, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, when it printed packets where.
Page 790.
Didn't get that one.
Yeah, just keep going. You're just finishing up the.
No, didn't get that one.
Oh, you didn't get it.
I can watch it up here, no problem.
It's just something you're looking to look at.
Brian, I've got just a quick question, and this is a little thing, and I'm assuming it's a non-issue, but I'm just gonna ask it to fulfill my own curiosity, I guess. The 35-foot height limit in these elevations, the chimney pipe is sticking up above. I'm assuming that 35 foot is just to the ridge line of the actual structure. It doesn't include the like a wood stove pipe.
Appurtenances such as chimney pipes, satellite dishes, antennas, et cetera, are exempted from the building.
Okay. If it were like an actual chimney, like structural chimney, like fireplace, would it count then?
No, we treat it the same whether it is a box type of a chimney or not.
Oh, okay.
Typically, those are more of a facade around one of these existing chimney pipes anyway.
Sure, okay.
Nice. Any other questions for staff or the applicant? Any other discussions? Seems to be pretty straightforward. It's a nice home. Don't see any issues with the design or walls or blank walls or anything like that that we would typically see. It's pretty flat property. Guessing there's no comments from the neighbors. We haven't seen anything. And were they required to do a 300-foot letter? So they didn't get any.
Go public notice.
I guess, Claire, real quick, on your notice, did you have any comments from your neighbors?
I've not been informed of any usually they would go to the city, so.
Well, I mean, if the, yeah.
Nobody provided any written comment.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Commissioners, open for a motion.
I move to approve design review 22-28 with the staff recommended conditions of approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. Approved. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you got a kitty cat. Okay, guess we now, let's see, let's have an ADA transition plan presentation. We don't.
Oh.
Okay,
There's a last minute schedule conflict, so we'll
at work.
again, March.
Shame.
Signs everywhere. None.
No signs?
Hey.
Oh. Okay. And I think I gave you part of, no, I got it. So we now have an item for as far as appointing a new planning and zoning commission member. I've been in discussion with Brian. That position is for a impact zone commission. We do have one letter of interest from Dave Petty, who is here at the meeting hall. Dave, I believe you are in the city limits. For that position, we are asked to do our best to get a impact zone resident. At this point, we have noticed it 2 times in the paper per what our normal requirement is. I think to try our best, we should try, I think, at least 2 more postings in the paper just to see if there is any actual impact zone person that would be interested. If not, then it does allow us to potentially appoint a city resident in for that position. Now, I know you have sat here for the whole meeting and I don't know if it would be appropriate.
Well, if it helps at all, my wife and I also own the property in Pilgrim Cove, 2012 John Alden, which is outside of the city.
It would have to be your residence. So if you're claiming that as your residence, then, now, I don't know if it'd be appropriate if you wanted to go ahead and speak or if we wanted to hold off and do that at a later time, because we really can't make a decision. I feel that we need to give at least one more effort to get an impact zone, because we're supposed to have 3 impact zone commissioners and 4 city commissioners, if at all possible. And I think, kind of with the holidays that we dealt with and winter, I mean, we're just getting over it. I think we need to give it one more shot in the paper to offer that position for an impact.
So then that would be done by next month's.
Yes.
Yeah, we put 2 more postings out. I will also round up our communications department to do some social media and other blasting of the posting to further our reach a little bit, and hopefully we can find some area candidates. We did receive 1 letter late today of somebody from the area of impact, but they couldn't make it here tonight, so I didn't really want to add more confusion to it at this point, so.
So yeah, we really need to show that we tried our every effort to the county commissioners, because they ultimately appoint that position. And so we really need to say we tried everything we could. We couldn't get one before they would appoint a city person.
There will be a city.
I was just going to say, coming up probably in May, I believe there will be an opening for a city position, or city resident position. So,
Do you want to give a speech? Because you're here.
you can if you spent the time here for.
Come back next month.
Okay. We just enjoyed the show. Well, as much as we'd like to. Okay, the next thing is the upcoming meeting for March. How are we looking? Thank you.
We've got maybe the conditional use permit on 501st Street.
I would be very surprised.
Oh, the one we just heard, yeah.
We've got attempt 2 to complete public noticing for the glass house. We've got, small
The glass I was.
home, floor line. Maybe it's not-
Brendan's office. Oh, yeah, okay. The old, which Cascade building, yeah, that's tasty.
We have downtown question marks at this point.
Consider that.
Meredith, can you speak up a little bit so we can hear you?
We probably don't have a conditional use permit on 500 First Street. We will probably have a design review for the glass house. We have I think a shoreline, private residence, and potentially a bar in the downtown core for design review. That is all.
So at this point, looking fairly light, sounds like, knock on wood, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Before you guys do your favorite part of the meeting, send you guys an email right before. There's a volunteer appreciation event, April 12th. They want a photo of you guys, so if everybody could plan on coming in person and being very good looking.
that'd be before or after we get to start
And,
drinking.
you know, that real
Is
order.
the city gonna pay for a day spa to help us be very good looking?
I'm afraid I might need more than a day spa.
Well, I'm not salvageable that easily either, so.
And so it's on April 12th, where?
Banyans.
At Banyan, so, okay.
There might be beer.
Yeah, God, beer there. I know how to get in the back room there.
Okay.
Okay, I think that covers everything. I'm open for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 7:32.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Glad you were able to make it, Christine and yeah.
Liz.
Yeah. Yep. Without you, if we were missing one, we wouldn't have had it, so. So hopefully we'll be able to get some people in the next one. We can get an appointment, so.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And feel free to reach out to people you know if you think they might be interested. Because sometimes that's the best way to recruit people.
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah,
There's
I've tried.
someone actually, maybe oh, but they're in the city. That won't work.
That's your position coming up.
I know, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll
But
think about
yeah,
that.
so anybody in the impact zone would be really good to get somebody for that one to be in the impact to have
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I suppose we didn't and we appointed somebody from the city, we could then potentially still appoint the next position for an impact if we got somebody.
By code.
Be really bad.
Well, but it would be,
Seven
it
more.
could still
On is it
Yeah.
7 max or is it 7?
7 is.
yeah.
7
by code,
is
that's-
it's a workable deal. Okay.
Yeah,
They have 12 or?
requirements, you would have up to 12 by state statute. I don't want to.
No,
No.
By code, the only requirement is that they have lived in the city or area of impact for at least 2 years. So we can appoint anybody to any of the positions within that. But I think it makes sense to continue
Good diplomacy.
trying our best to.
at least one more.
Yeah.
Years ago, it would go for months and months before they would get an applicant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
And
only
Michelle knows
once
that.
we had the county commissioners appoint somebody from the city, but they were still sort of designated to represent the impact area. And that's just because we had such a hard time filling seats at that point. But I feel like hopefully we can get somebody from the impact area because I think it'll make the county commissioners feel better too.
Yeah, and did you said you
Actual resident.
forwarded that letter that you got, it was right before the meeting, but did you send that out?
Not send it.
Okay, but it'll be in our next package, so, okay. Okay, well,
right,
everybody,
thanks,
thank you very
everyone.
much.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Good letter, Michelle. That was interesting. Didn't get that one. Okay. Yeah.